I'm the scat man. I'm the scat man.
Good Friday. Happy Friday, 10 a.m., January 3rd. Welcome to NHL Puck Props presented by Sports Interaction. I'm Josh Ingles. Carlo off today, doing some hockey stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Producer Mick, my right-hand man, David Ferguson. Good morning. You're in the chat. Let me know you're there. I might need your help today. Riding solo. Happy Friday, Brian. Appreciate it. Coming off kind of an ugly day yesterday. Stacks weren't stacking. Lots of goals in Detroit, St. Louis, just not from our guys. The entire top line in Columbus didn't have a single point. Oh, Monahan had a goal, but that was about it. That's where it ended. And some of the other stacks weren't. I could have co-hosted shirtless. Me and Carlo have that conversation at least once a week. And then Darren jumps up. I went to bed. I saw the score. They tied things up late. Matty Beniers with 2 points. Capo, nowhere to be found. That one hurt. Gunther Cooley is, probably the best one. I obviously enjoy that one a lot more than the Schmaltz stack. Beniers was a good read. He no-showed. He just didn't get there, sadly. He was on the ice for all the goals, for the 2 goals. The power play scored. That power play also got more time than the other power play. So if you go over to some sites, that will show that Matty Beniers and the Kako and the McCann line is now PP1, like they were. Insight, Vetrano, Terry, and don't forget, Strome hit on that one too. There were a few of them, but there were some issues with just not putting other things away. And the Detroit stuff. I got a message from Kyle Larusik from Covers saying that Kane DeBrincat one he got it for plus 220 yesterday. That line is absolutely on fire. Is San Jose with Askarov an under team now? Yeah, they are. I'm scared to stack against them when he's in net. Yeah, there he is. He wanted to add DeBrincat. Like, if you're going to do the DeBrincat, you might as well just go with the Kane and DeBrincat instead. Couldn't find that Dylan or that Mason Raymond. Lucas Raymond put it together. Cash yesterday. Both Dallas lines cash for me too. Good find there. Quinn Paterka, I think the Cousins one hit as well, but I think they moved him up a line, so there is some shuffle in Buffalo. Buffalo looked good out of the gates, and that sucks because I have been hitting them hard, and I didn't hit that line. Another line that I like tonight is going, and they have really moved things around. So coming off a losing day, let's get it back. Ottawa, St. Louis to pick 'em, sitting at 5.5. We're going second line, but I'm not even sure if it's the second line. 3 of them. Shen, Kyrou, Holloway, 475. Now, this is an even better stack, even though it's not priced in. This is still the same price as it was before. If you go check out what they're doing with the power play in St. Louis, you're now seeing that these 3 are playing together on PP2, which is probably PP1B to the 1A, where Thomas's top line there with Buchnevich and Cam Fowler as their quarterback, whereas the Shen, Kyrou, Holloway power play point have Justin Falk. So we're going to go there versus Ottawa. Why do I want to fade Ottawa? Well, the only thing that was keeping me away from fading Ottawa on stacks was Linus Ullmark. Linus Ullmark's out. Ottawa played last night. And now I think we'll get an Anton Forsberg start, which is great news for St. Louis, who's riding high coming off the Winter Classic. PP point. There are some PP points here. Shen for a point at plus 130 is a great deal. Shen at a power play point at 575 is a great deal. Dylan Holloway for a power play point is also in that plus 500 range. I know not a lot of the power play stuff was hitting last night. Kind of angry I didn't hit a lot of the Columbus stuff that all hit and the Detroit stuff. And the St. Louis penalty kill has killed just 5 of their last 11, and they've played some pretty crappy teams in Nashville, Chicago, Buffalo. So they're giving it up that way. Expecting Ottawa to keep giving it up. They're struggling right now. Things were good with Ottawa. Now they're not. They're mixing up their lines. And let's get some early action because we got a 5.5 point total. So we're getting a big number on first period. Both teams to score here. Yes, plus 170. Kachuk, Thomas, Buchnevich, plus 240 if you want to go that way. Yeah, I don't think you can get it. Hey, what's up, RN? I don't think you can get anything else with Kachuk in terms. I think he's still playing with what he did yesterday with Greg and Pinto. So that's where we're going with this. If you haven't bet first period, both teams to score, yes, markets, it's actually a really fun one for a first 20-minute sweat, and you get really good plus money. So we're getting plus 170 here. And I don't think you need to handicap it and like go into like, well, how good are they in the first period? How good defensively are they in the first period? We get an Ottawa team that is up to speed after playing yesterday. So they're good. And then St. Louis can score versus Anton Forsberg, who is one of arguably the worst. That's why he's a number 3 goaltender right now. And he didn't even take over the number 1 spot when Linus was out. And that goes to a guy, I forget his name, that rookie goalie who I don't think I've ever said his name live. Let me know what that guy's name, the Ottawa starter yesterday. If you can help me out, I'd appreciate that. Shankai Holloway practiced line 2 yesterday. Yeah, but they're line 2, but it's like it's top 6. So the Thomas is still line 1. I wouldn't look too much into the 1 or 2. Even mentioned the Kane and DeBrincat stuff. They're crushing at line 2. But those are the looks for the Ottawa St. Louis game. I'm really surprised that St. Louis is only minus 110. I think they're moving to minus 115, so they're taking a bit of money in this spot. Ottawa has looked bad in their last 3 games. Things were looking great. This was my question. So I usually have my questions for Carlo after my spiel, and this was my question for Carlo. If you guys want to touch on it in the chat, go ahead. I had 2 things I wanted to ask him about this. What kind of schedule spot is this for the Blues after the Winter Classic? You have that circled for so long. A game versus Ottawa on the second game of a back-to-back. It's something you haven't really done. Thank you, Russian. Yes. Levi Merleinanen. There, yeah. Butchered. Absolutely butchered. Oh, well. So what kind of schedule spot is this? Is this a letdown spot for St. Louis? Are they going to have to play catch-up? And then on the other side, what happens to Ottawa, who was riding high, but a lot of that had to do with the play of Linus Ullmark. Now he's out. Now you're losing. How does that affect the locker room? If Carlo was here, he'd say, it doesn't matter, Josh. These picks are great. Thanks, bud. We miss you. Pittsburgh, Florida. Florida minus 205. Played yesterday. Over-under sitting at 6.5. I don't get it. Bob was fantastic yesterday. I don't know if anybody was out there betting. Like, Carolina could have ran away with that game. Bob was great. And they saw it in the press. There was lots of quotes about guys saying we should have won that one for Bob. Guess what? You didn't. Now you get Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight, not so good. He's not so good. And he's one of the driving factors for taking Pittsburgh on the money line. Where's my Spencer Knight stuff? He's 2-2 straight up in his last 5 games, but an .846 save percentage. That is hot trash. Straight hot trash. Knight is not the guy. He's struggling right now as the backup. And the Pittsburgh power play is goals in 4 straight and 7 for 12 over that stretch in 4 straight games. Guess what? Pittsburgh's a 500 team right now. They're playing better. They haven't lost back-to-back games since December 8th. They're 5-0 following a loss and coming off a loss. And we're going to go to the guy who Carlo loves, Michael Bunting, for a point at plus 130. And oh boys, producer Mick on the ball. Like, he just, like, in the middle of my sentence, he just throws that right up there. Pittsburgh, Florida, over 6.5. Could be, yes. I think there's some certain scoring factors here. And plus 170 is a giant number. I think if you probably go over, you can probably get maybe the Pittsburgh team total. Nah, let me double check. But like, the money line's got to be the better side, because that I would assume that the team total of 3.5. Jesus. Okay. The Pittsburgh team total 3.5 is plus 200 over. I still like the money line better. 3, I don't know, maybe 4-1, 3-1 win. So there's the question. There's the Bunting power play point. I do have that written down. But I think at the plus 130 price, I think that's good enough value just to take him on. He is playing on the second line with, it's Gino and Anthony Beauvillier at 5-on-5, so it's not that great. But like, if you're going for the power play point, I think he's 475. That's a good look. And if you haven't noticed, Tanger's out. So the quarterback for the power play versus this Florida team that could give up 3 to 4 goals today, Matt Grzelcyk, he's plus 525. He might be one of the best values. He's like Ty Smith territory in terms of value. Quarterbacking PP1, 525 is a number that you should kind of touch. If that's your angle. The variance in betting power play points is tough. There can be big losing days, especially. I had a bad one yesterday, that's for sure. Sid, Rust, Raquel, 254. That's a good one. What if infamous boy go Sid, Rust, Raquel, and put Barkov and Reinhardt together and see what that 5-pack comes to. If it's like 500, it's kind of worth it, but I don't think the Barkov Reinhardt one will boost it too much. 254 for the trio, who also play all 5-on-5 and now power play 1. That's a good look. Bunting power play point. Attaboy. He's locked in. He's 14 points over his last 14 games. Bunting has been flying under the radar as a very good piece of this offense. And I joke that he scores in close, but hey, I don't care. Reinhardt with the guys, 750. Holy moly. That's a good stack, kind of in the same vein that we tried to hit the Detroit Columbus one yesterday. Powell getting creative. See, look at you fancy pants guys out here. He's going to get fancy. He's going to put the Barkov assist in that. And why wouldn't you? But I think there's goals in this game. I think there's a lot of value in terms of where you can stack this game more so than the other ones as I look at the rest of the list. So this is the only, I'm assuming this is the best. Now, Anaheim, Edmonton over 6.5 minus 115. No. If I had to pick the game that could have the most goals, I think it's Pittsburgh, Florida here, because I think both teams can score. I think this could be a 3-3 game going into overtime. 7-goal game. I like it. Let's go to another game. Montreal, Chicago, where we're looking at the other team coming off the Winter Classic. Another bad schedule spot. Montreal playing good hockey. I wanted Carlo here to talk about, can Montreal push? 3 points of the playoff spot. They're looking good. 390 for the St. Louis triple stack. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, yeah, you never just want to throw it around. Always be conscious of the price, right? There's always a buy point on these, and I think you're kind of getting to it on there. I think I'd still go 100 points under. I think 375 still a buy on that top line, that St. Louis line in that matchup. Montreal. Let's get some Montreal goals. No money line, because they're a favorite at Chicago, but how about over 3.5 goals plus 125? We'll take that. And then we're going to go the same route. We're going to go a triple stack on the boys in Montreal with Bedard and Bertuzzi. We've seen Hall go down, getting this at 11-1 here. Darren's working on some crazy plays himself there. But again, this at 11-1. Like I said, Hall's off that line. I think, who did they bring up on that line? Oh, don't worry, everybody. They brought up Ilya Mikheyev to play with Bedard. How effing sad is Chicago? Connor Bedard literally had to go on his socials and apologize to the city of Chicago after the absolute dud they played in the Winter Classic. It's a low point for this team. And they just keep shuffling the lines thinking that it's going to work. Ryan Donato somehow centering the fourth line. Stick with fucking something and make it work. Give it time. You're losing. It doesn't matter. Changing your fucking lines every day isn't going to help Bedard produce. Taylor Hall's been good. Let's put him down on the second line. Okay, we brought in Tuevo. Let's not play him entirely with Bedard. Donato's a guy who can get pucks on net. Let's center him on the fourth line. Just a piss poor management job and head coaching job in Chicago in terms of how they deal with their personnel. There it is. So Inside saying 275 for the triple stack in Montreal, which isn't bad. And that's when I'm like, okay, let me see what the Bedard Bertuzzi one is, because it's been cashing. And it's really helped, especially across two, because they get all the time. They get the power play. They get the 90 seconds on the power play. They fired Richardson. Their D has dropped off huge since. That's a good point. How Chicago's played defensively. All the goals in the Winter Classic seem to be coming on the power play. Makes me worry about the development of Chicago. So that's a really good point, Eric. Yes, it's kind of like what you see in Anaheim. You just keep running these guys out and just try to mix things up. Where the Montreal approach was Mikheyev for a goal at 375. No, I think I could find. I don't like goals. I don't think they're priced well enough to hit them. 375. You can find something better than 375. I think so. So to back to that point, what Montreal did with their line, right? They gave Slav top minutes, right? They kept Suzuki and Caulfield together constantly. They let them build. It takes more than a half a season to develop with young guys. And they played Kurashev last year with Bedard constantly. He looked good with them. They built a lot of chemistry. There's just nothing in Chicago. There's nothing. You got a fourth line of Ryan Donato and Pat Maroon out there. Nothing against the rig, but it's embarrassing what's happening in Chicago. But I don't know what kind of response you get from Chicago either today, right? They're in the dumps. They're like, are they going to turn around? I don't think they have the talent to be like, okay, we're going to give it 140% today. We're going to come out and smash Montreal, who's actually playing well. But I could see some two-way scoring. There's another angle I wanted to talk to Carlo about. Chicago brought up Colton Dach, which is interesting. That's Kirby Dach's brother. So it's going to be a brother-brother game. Hey, Andrew G, that's a great point. Chicago should use the Montreal blueprint for how they've developed these young guys and how they put them into spots, right? It's what you're seeing from Montreal, I think, is legit. The Lane Hudson hype really turns this team into something a lot more than having someone like Matheson as your QB1 on your power play. But yeah, there is an interesting spot. There are no props. I mean, the Montreal second line with Dach and Newhook and Patrick Laine has been good, but only Laine has markets. I was looking for a Newhook or I wouldn't have minded looking at that second line because that would have paid big bucks. And Kirby Dach playing against his brother would have been something too. So there's probably some money on the board in that. Only when a player moves up and his point isn't available. That's the only time to hit him for a goal. I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. Just take the point because if he doesn't exist, like we saw with Jesper Kotkaniemi. Didn't have markets. Boom. His market opens for points. Plus 155. A hit again last night. Capo Kakinen wasn't available. Opens up. These guys don't just come into the market at minus 115. They always start at plus 150 and then slowly, game by game, go down, down, down until they get to their price point. So you still have 5, 6, 7 games sometimes for guys to get their points. So Grok saying he doesn't want to hit the Slav in that terms. He still gets 600 without adding Slavkovsky. Slavkovsky's been great, and he plays all his shifts with them. So just the probability of him getting a point with those guys, pretty big. But I don't know. Out of the other stacks, Ottawa's tough. Anaheim, Stuart Skinner, if you want to go that route and hit again, Terry Vetrano and Strome, it's probably paying, but I probably need 500 for it. I'm not sure what the price is. Nashville, Vancouver's an interesting game because Vancouver's been getting no goaltending ever since the collapse of Seattle. It's kind of been ugly there too, but their whole first line correlates right now with DeBrusk, Miller, and Besser. Yes, it did hit last night, the Anaheim point. I believe old Bobby Newports were talking about. But Duck, Vetrano, and Terry, 2 points. 1,400, any good? Those are your two. 14? No. Tim, what is the full stack? Strome, Vetrano, and Terry. Is it 500 or better? If you want to take a big shot, get those 3 for 2 points. 14 to 1 for a plus 350 underdog doesn't compute. Yes, that's King Boot. So it's 450 for the trio, which I'd rather get because they're not scoring more than 2 goals. Even against Stuart Skinner. They don't. You just have to get lucky and hopefully that they all 3-point within those 2 goals. 2 points is for all 3, 40 to 1. That's just take a swing on something like that. But 14 to 1 isn't worth it. When we were doing this last year, and Andy can attest too, we were getting Aho and Svechnikov for 2 points each at that price. That's where it's come down to. And now you have to find guys like Quinn and Peterka to find any value in that. Guys like Capo Kakinen and Matty Beniers to find anything. Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, 225. Yeah, I don't love it. Strome assists. So now Chris is adding the assist in that Anaheim stack for 700. I don't know. It's see how the early games go. It's a 9:00 game. If you hit early in the 7:00 game, I'm liking goals in the Pittsburgh, Florida game, maybe roll over some of that into that Anaheim stack. But second game of a back-to-back versus Edmonton, I mean, minus 450. You're probably getting the most value out of that over, as I think I just spit, just because of how it's going to be priced, because they're a 350 dog on the road in the second of a back-to-back. I don't know. We'll see where it is. Shot ladder for Yossi. Thank you, Tim Powell. There it is. The Edmonton, right? Every morning where it's like, okay, what are you going to bet on? Oh, what are there? And there's always those trends. You're like, oh, okay. Defenseman versus Anaheim. Ooh, but it didn't hit yesterday, right? Yesterday, I'm like, oh, we should have done that Morrissey assist ladder. Bouchard. So it could be like a Bouchard assist ladder. Minus 140 is tough to pay for that first rung. Renski has been killing it. He's the second shortest guy for points on that Columbus team with Marchenko in front. Bouchard, minus 140 for one assist, plus 350 for two assists, and 12-1 for three assists. There's that ladder. Even his three shots, like Evan Bouchard, I haven't really looked at it, but like I wouldn't be betting minus 155 for his over 2.5 shots. But if the numbers show off, I mean, plus 165 for 4 shots versus, is McDavid over 1.5 assists a lock? No, there's no such thing as locks. 140 is not a bad price, but I mean, like, he's minus 160 for 2 points. It's a tough spot. I'm not a huge McDavid double point guy. Not to get off track. Hey, we can get off track forever. I don't have a basketball show coming up, so let's go. Not to get off track, but Mike Evans needs 88 yards and 5 catches to unlock $3 million bonus. Appreciate that. Old Joe Osborne was on TSN this morning talking about that same thing. Well, guess what? They've inflated the stink out of Mike Evans' receiving yards that are now at like 98. So it's like, get there, out. You'd hate to do it that way. That's a lock. No, there are a bunch, right? I think the Brock Bowers situation in terms of receptions is a good one. It's a softer market. I think Malik Neighbors in that spot, same thing, needs catches to break the rookie record. That's a situation you can handle. I mean, everyone's talking about them, but what I think is a better angle this week that I've actually put some time in, and I'll drop it on Before You Bet at noon today. So jump over there with me and Joe and John Metler, who's absolutely been crushing NHL SGP or NBA SGPs 850 2 days ago, 11-1 yesterday. He's absolutely ripping it up. Week 18, high variance. When there's high variance, it's time to take a swing. And like there's a ton of value in last TDs with backup running backs, I think, this week, more so than anybody. First half spread. So there's Lucy's like, talk about more hockey. I got sidetracked. It happens. In terms of more hockey talk, I don't know what to say. I like goals in Pittsburgh, Florida. I could see that over 6.5 moving up. Spencer Knight in net on that side. I think Pittsburgh can score. As who I like in Florida to score, they've kind of moved things around. I think if you can get Barkov, Reinhart, and Rodriguez, who don't correlate but play together 5-on-5 at plus 200, not bad, but probably a pass there. Montreal, Chicago. Montreal's moved from like minus 120 to minus 130 just since we started the show. So they're taking on some money. Unsure of what kind of response we get from Chicago after they had to apologize for their awful play on the world stage, whatever, the North American stage in the Winter Classic. But I do like two-way scoring in that. Ottawa, St. Louis could be a sneaky game. We're seeing the over's 5.5 minus 120. I wouldn't be surprised if that moved up in a spot just because the Anton Forsberg likely start and St. Louis maybe not a great schedule spot after the Winter Classic. Anaheim, Edmonton, I'm not touching anything. Anaheim's second of a game. Stuart Skinner's been wildly unreliable but came off a good start. And then Nashville, Vancouver, just two teams that game could finish 2-1. That game doesn't interest me in goals, and that's why we see the over 5.5 minus 120 there. I think we see more goals in the Ottawa-St. Louis game than we do in the Nashville-Vancouver game. Donato has an easy ladder, I think. 1.5 minus 188, 3, 175, 450. But I don't like his spot. Like, go see where he's playing. I think he's playing with Pat Maroon. it's a difficult spot to find. No, Grok's still talking about incentives. Gino needs 186 yards passing to unlock $2 million. If you know about it, the books know about it. And you're not going to find a market that's going to pay well for 186 passing yards from a starting quarterback. If you want to get technical, you're going to have to do the asshole money line parlay, basically. You're going to have to bring down Mike Evans' yards to that number, like 80, and then add 200 for Gino, and do it that way, because the numbers are too inflated on the other side. And there'll be some ugly spots where, like we see with Evans, he can hit it, he can win his bonus, and you still lose your bet. We back on Donato? No, I'm not back on Donato. You can be. I don't know. Joe Milton overs. Oh, there you go. Before we go, I did write down like some backs that you want to try to keep an eye on for last touchdown stuff. Like, so Baltimore, like, they're 20-point favorites, right? Like, Derrick Henry's not going to be rushing at the end. Keon Mitchell, last TD, 16-1. Rasheen Ali, there's the sneaky one, 22-1 last TD. Trayvon Williams for Cincinnati's a sneaky one behind Khalil Herbert. We'll try to figure out where those snaps go. One I really want to find out, and there's no market for, Davis Price. I don't even know what his first name is. Starts with a T. I'm really good at my job. The number 3 running back in Philadelphia. They're resting guys. Kenneth Gainwell's the number 1. I don't know if he plays the whole game, but like, if they open a last TD market for him, I'd take anything at 20-1 or better. And there's, I don't know, there's lots to do. They run millions of sims. Joe Milton is a friend of mine. He is going to throw deep often. Sure. The books always know. That's a good way to finish it up. Any last questions before we duck out here and I send you on your way, your merry way for a Friday? Puck line. Someone said puck lines. Dun, 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 dun. Pittsburgh reverse puck line. That's crazy. I think St. Louis wins. That's your probably best puck line. They're minus 115, taking some money, plus 225 if you're looking that way. Henry only needs, but they're not going to run, right? Henry doesn't, they're not going to push Henry to get that 217. Like, that's insane. You see Saquon being a team player saying, I don't need records. Like, let's go win a championship. And Henry's probably in the same boat. Anaheim, Edmonton. I mean, we're almost getting at that point where you almost have to bet at Anaheim. And like 380, 390 is like, you just have to, because that's the way hockey is. And Nashville, Vancouver. I really have no feel for that game. I wish I did. There it is. Yes, Tyrion Davis Price. Will Shipley for last Philly TD. There it is. Now he's thinking. Andres Sanchez, appreciate it. Henry might get the TD for $500K. Yeah, they might give him something there. But look for those third down backs. Look for those guys who, what was the game? I can't even remember. Trying to think about who got the late carries. But there's a great market this week that might be better than the incentive markets in terms of getting number 3 running backs for big bucks. Let's do it at that. We'll leave Friday. Gainwell. Sure, Gainwell. Gainwell's priced as a number 1 running back versus an awful New York Jets team or Giants team. Blackhawks under 2.5 is plus 120. Now we're talking. Like, there's a crazy one where you could almost bet against yourself and see what the multiplier's like, where you go, ooh, Bertuzzi and Bedard. We're getting crazy here. Now I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know any of the value on this. Bertuzzi and Bedard for a point each, but Chicago team total under 2.5, because they've literally been the only offensive part within that team. But I don't know what the multiplier is. Oh my God. That's 18-1. I love the new Q&A Friday show. I love that the chat's helping me out with a lot of shit here. And I just love throwing things at the wall and talking about them, honestly. If you can't tell, I do enjoy talking. Blackhawks under 2.5 points. And if you add Bertuzzi and Bedard to that, it is 18-1. That's an interesting one. Hit that like button, King Boog says. Your freeloaders, absolutely. Thank you very much. Interesting little So you get the value of the stack that you need them together that's kind of priced in, but not fully. And then the under 2.5 goals. And then you hope that they just score together or at least two. Oh, I do like that. That's going to be something I'm going to be looking at going forward, especially in those morning. How are you doing? Especially as they take away the value in the stack. So there's always value on the other side, it seems. I expect a full X report of this whole show. This whole show went off the rails. We talked about a lot of shit, but that's fine. As I'm looking at that. Sean Tucker, there's the smartest guy in the room. Jared King, I put it out yesterday. Sean Tucker, last TD, 33-1. Absolutely blew up the Saints back in week 6 for 195 total yards and 2 TDs. Obviously, the guys weren't starting, but that's the guy. A lot of the books don't even have the markets out for some of these guys because they don't know where it's going to go. That's maybe the best mop-up duty back in week 18. And you're getting him at 650 for a TD and 33-1 for last TD when guys like, Rashid Ali in Baltimore. You never heard of him, right? Yeah, he's the number 4 back. He's 22-1. Sean Tucker is the best price by far for a TD. Oh, come on now. Cheeseburger Eddie's after my heart. Absolutely after my heart. Is that a man holding a giant stalk of celery? It is. 125-1. Oh, no. And Patton's firing away at the under 2.5. That is a really good price. All right. Yeah, more Josh on Before You Bet. If I might have to drink some hot honey tea, rest of that voice. All right. We're getting right off the rails. Soon we're going to be talking Sean Tucker, 3 total TDs plus last and first TD SGPs and see where we get it. All right. You guys are absolute beauties. It's Friday, first Friday of the new year. Awesome. Thanks for all the help. No, this is vegan. Oh, okay. There you go. Appreciate it. We'll get Carlo back here next week. We go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, back to the regular schedule. Appreciate all you beauties. Find me on X today. We'll be busy Before You Bet at noon with Joe coming up, dropping a lot of those last TD bets as well. And Blitz. We got 2 games on Saturday, and the Sunday night game has a 56 fucking point total indoor game. And I just bet Jared Goff 3+ TDs at plus 175 because that game's going to be awesome. The TD parlays that are going to be made on Sunday Night Football are going to be huge. That will be one of them. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for everybody there. This is NHL Puck Props presented by Sports Interaction. See you beauties on Wednesday. Later.